I'm Margaret Ann Windsor. I'm going to turn this around. I was kidnapped in 1941 and brought to Moulton, Alabama, given the name of a twin. Both twins were dead, Carl and Peggy, born out of wedlock. Excuse me, it's early in the morning. Carl was killed about a month after birth. They were a year older than me, approximately, and Peggy was killed actually a week or 2 weeks prior to my kidnapping and being dropped off there in this house of horror, if you call it a house. Anyway, she was fed to the pigs, absolutely. So you can imagine how they treated me. In line of Dempsey. And by the way, I'm going to insert this with all the rest if you follow me. She was with U.S. Senator John Sparkman from Alabama when he died. She was doing a companion aid. She had been years ago she didn't have a degree or any kind, but worked as a nurse in Moulton, Alabama, nurse's aide, or when I was growing up, she did to a degree. And anyway, I'm going to skip that. She was with John Sparkman. John Sparkman helped funnel the money into this country. And it wasn't just money. It was like Werner von Braun and scientists that came to this country. And there are many ways to funnel properties and things other than money over the board there. I'm a hostage. I always have been, and so were my sons, and I hope they're still alive. Mark is there after me. My father's Edward VIII, a most beautiful human. Then that's what kills me, is to have history record nothing but lies. My father was always married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe. I know I'm being redundant, but if I don't, someone picking up the video cannot put it together maybe as well. Anyway, my father was always married to Mom. She was queen, and well, she always was queen because the takedown was illegal. It was character assassination by the Illuminati. You should consider them a foreign government, because that's what they become, your one world government through the United Nations. They went in and used the UK. And they took my father down because he wouldn't go along with them, and he certainly wasn't going to sign the treaties, and that's what's so important here. Excuse me. George, it really gets me to know that he helped with my kidnapping, with Roosevelt, with the Rockefellers, with the Kennedys. Joe Kennedy was appointed ambassador in 1936. They kicked him out in 1946. Winston Churchill got in on it, and my understanding there's Cosmos Lang, he was Archbishop of Canterbury. They married my mom. They were married in the Church of England. I was christened, and I know that. There was a big portrait of my father, much like the one I use as a profile, except he was holding me, and some of the metal was not on it. They had the portrait, the two men that I remember. Well, there's probably the same ones that helped kidnap me. The Kennedys were very instrumental in it. I didn't know about it until 1983 after I ran in a U.S. Congressional campaign. And Larry Flint of Hustler magazine had been shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia in 1978 when I was doing the book, trying to get it published and writing it. It was about MindControl murders and the Tesla files that were stolen years ago, the early 30s or 1930. And I go ahead and put this because this is exactly what I don't think I still have it. I may. But the Tesla files were stolen in, and that's how on earth did Tesla have all this information? It makes you wonder in his head. But anyway, you could create an illness or you can cure it. You can mass mind control people or single mind control, make it appear they committed suicide or had cancer, or you can cure it, heart attack, or cure that. So it would do away with your, what are they doing with your hospitals and your charities that everybody runs to? You'd think at some point they'd say, hey, they have all this equipment and these huge hospitals. I know some of them, since I was in Atlanta, they have grown and are so huge that, and a lot of it gets into their promoting mental health with all these shootings that are program shooters. Virginia Tech, the takedown of the plane, they had Larry McDonald, the congressman, on it August the 31st of 83, and 260 aboard drowned from Juneau, Alaska to Seoul, South Korea. And this is in the books if they haven't removed it. President Nixon, the rat, the Watergate tapes where they've got me, okay? I hope one day they were subpoenaed and they took them out because not Alexander Haig, Kissinger, your global Jewish government, you should see what he was doing, or maybe somebody would find it funny. I didn't, I don't, and I hope there's a justice, according to me. What was done to me and my baby the day he was born, or attempted, and okay. And my second son was actually taken. And the baby I brought in, I wish I still had the picture, but all that was destroyed in 80 when they almost killed me, April Fool Day. They took my apartment, and there's a woman living over in Mississippi, and her name is Twyla Pollard or Pollen. She lives, it's near Gulfport. She lived in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and Marietta. Supposedly she married my husband, or ex-husband, and she had a agency here told me that she had my divorce papers. So when she cashed the policy when he died, she committed fraud, and she even tried to have me killed. It's how that was done. So that's just nothing of all of it that was done that should have been prosecuted and hasn't. Now I'm going to get to this. This is really the reason I'm putting this up. When I was doing the book, I learned that you could use ham sets. This is in 76 that I learned it. Living at Treetop, working for the doctors, and they allowed me to Xerox my book there. They knew I was doing it and everything. I've kind of explained this in another one where Chip was put in a heart bypass that one of the doctors did. He was cardiovascular. And the very next job, I had to quit to try to complete some of the book and get it published and get it done. And the next job, which was so odd, was Powers Ferry across from Moonraker in Journey's End, where I was living. And the only really nice place I lived, other than Westgate, we had a home there briefly, but so much went on. But anyway, Powers Ferry and Dixon Produce was across the street almost, Delk Road and Powers Ferry landing. Moorings and all that restaurant was there. It was really nice, but Dixon's was there. It was corporate headquarters. They were huge. It may sound like a small thing, produce, but they were huge. Well, the doctor that I worked for had put a chip in. I didn't know it at the time till I quit and was trying to get the book published, and then had to go back to work some more to get some money. And come to find out, Gary Dixon's father was chairman of the board, I believe. So the president would have been this man's name, Forshaw, I believe it was his name. And he was the one that the doctor put the chip in. And the woman that did the books sat right behind me, the main books. Must have been a job without the computers they have, but anyway, she did most of the bookkeeping. And I remember she told me and showed me the insurance papers where the doctor had, it didn't say he put a chip in him, but she showed that to me. She showed me where her husband, his first name was Russell or his last name was Russell, where he had been killed. And I can't remember that because at the time, quite frankly, it didn't make sense to me. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. The way that I learned, I didn't put this together then, but first, the second job, let me put this, I worked exactly a year and then I was married. Out of high school, I worked in Huntsville, the Space Center. I was there because of kidnapping me and bringing Werner von Braun and some beautiful people here, and then replacing them with Bill Goodson, which came later, but he was part of it, Hyman Miller, sick rat. I hope the world has to see what that man did. And a bunch from out of, I don't know if it was Utah, but then Jack Hartsfield, this friend of mine, he was a uncle, or I think it was his nephew. He was close. I'm pretty sure it was his nephew, is Hank Hartsfield, the astronaut, who was over a couple of the, he was commander over a couple of shuttles. So Jack was a reporter, but he was really FBI undercover. And he covered Los Alamos. And about that time is when I went through there. And I still had the Larry Flint had furnished me a car because I had lost everything, and he helped me in that campaign in '83. And Jack, I went through Albuquerque, and Jack was there working for the New Mexican News. And he was so nice to me. He was always a perfect gentleman. He filled my tank in the car. He took me out to his apartment, me and my cat. He brought my cat in. And Persian in, and the first thing the cat did was try scratching his sofa. I thought, please don't. But anyway, Jack gave me and the cat his bedroom. I always thought he was so nice. He saved my life in Huntsville in 1980 after that almost killed me. So anyway, Jack gave me his bedroom, and I remember the one morning that, and he told me to bring my cat in, and I was afraid to because I had it fixed up in the car anyway where it could get to his toilet and I'd feed it, but brought it in, put it in a room with me, and Jack knocked at the door one morning and he said, are you decent? I need to come in and get a jacket out of the closet. And he said, cover up, I'll give you, or something to that, I'll give you a few minutes. And I said, okay. And I covered me and the cat up. I guess I thought this was cute because it was nice to have someone who wasn't being mean. And anyway, I wanted to throw that in because I thought it was very nice. But anyway, that was in Albuquerque, and of course Georgia O'Keeffe, my aunt, was just over the hill there in Abiquiu, New Mexico. I even went to the little post office there, and knowing what I know now, I would have driven up to her farm, Ghost Ranch. But then this guy, Juan Hamilton, that got everything, she never left that in the will. The O'Keeffes have tried to contest it, and it's part of this whole thing. My mom marrying my dad, and my dad being taken down, and me being born and kidnapped, and they're still saying that he married Wallace Simpson. He was married to my mom. It was an illegal takedown, and I know I'm redoing this to get to where I'm going here. Wallace Simpson was an American spy. 1937, when George Illegal VI, Elizabeth's father, helped the Illuminati steal the crown from my father. It's 1937. She married an imposter claiming to be Edward VIII, which was a lie. When I was born in 39, then they had to kidnap me because there had been papers made that were totally legal. They took my dad down with character assassination and total lies. The double was doing most of this, and the press is today controlled by your Illuminati. And by the way, I'll forget this. I'm going to get confused now. I want to go back to who stole the Tesla files. So help me. It said that there's more to this, but that it's the uncle to President Trump. I think that's quite a thing from back there, 1930, and I'm writing about it and finding out who I am, and in the campaign, and then Donald Trump is elected president, and his uncle was the one that helped steal the files, Tesla files, and oh God, I'm forgetting. Oh, and there's a connection here, if it's ever shown. It's remember, I was brought up here and given the name of a twin, and they were both dead, Peggy and Carl. They even put the state of Alabama from Montgomery, marked through the real dates of birth of Peggy and Carl before they sent them to me. The Embassy of England, when I was up there twice, but told me to get copies from the state, and I did. And they had actually marked through the dates of birth of the twins, inserted the date that I'd grown up with. They gave me all those years through high school and through work and everything, so it'd be hard to change it all. And they put the date of birth they'd given me when they brought me over and kidnapped me. So when I went, I made such a fuss, and I wish I hadn't now, here in Virginia when I was trying to get my driver's license. Well, I could have had my driver's license if I'd kept my mouth shut. But I told them, I said, that's not my name, and this is marked through, and it says on my birth certificate, because you had to present it. And well, it wasn't my birth certificate. I have to use it. I have to use that I'm an American citizen, which my mother was, so if they were saying, Margaret Ann Windsor, are you an American citizen? I do have, and then my children had to be born here, Mark and Scott, who are heirs after me. Their grandfather's Edward VIII, a beautiful man. I mean, this is all so convoluted, and yet you get it put out, and it makes perfect sense. The timeline proves it and everything. But anyway, now I'm going to lose my train of thought. I made such a fuss in there that I wanted them, I said, do you have a way to see what's underneath the real date of birth that they'd marked through? And it's illegal. It says that on the birth certificate you can't change it. It's against the law, and yet the state of Alabama did. And just marked through both of them and put the date they'd given me up over it. Okay, down here, they took it back there, and they come back. They put it under ultraviolet light or something, come back and said, well, I think they always knew this. They said, you're right. And then they wouldn't tell me the real dates underneath, and they wouldn't give me my driver's license. So there you go. I'm laughing at it. What can I do? So where am I now? I'm going to get back. I try to laugh to get through. It's good thing I can this morning. So anyway, let me get back to the how that was done. I worked at Curl Wholesale Company, and that was I left August the 18th, I think it was, but I was married on August 18th, so it had to have been the 16th, and flew to Kissimmee. I was trying to get that because that was the mind control murder of Casey Anthony and her attorney. His office was in Kissimmee, where Wayne Childers, where I was married in their home. And okay, so let me back up here. Anyway, I worked for Curl Wholesale, and it was an electronic firm, so they had electronics.